Welcome to another Mike and Mario show, the M&M show. Excited to be back. Mario, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, thank you, Mike. And you?
I am doing great, man. And I'm excited to have this talk because, as we were talking beforehand, the information that we're going to touch on is something that we may not hear from any other news source for sure, but the way we plan on diving into it will probably be something people need to pay attention to because it's literally the playbook of the deep state, the globalists, whatever we want to call them, all laid out right in front of us. And I'm excited to go through it with you. And I appreciate you for bringing it to my attention. So you always stay on top of your P's and Q's with that. But let's dive right in. So for those tuning in, welcome to the M&M show. I'm excited to be back. Had last week off due to some scheduling conflicts and things like that, but we're back at it. So we might have to do double for our trouble just to get through all these articles today. And so for those tuning in, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe. Make sure you go check out Manico64 on YouTube and all that good stuff. And let's dive right in. So Mario, let's touch off on today's job numbers. Let me pull that screen up here. And I'll have you share your 2 cents on everything and give us a rundown. So we got the numbers right here. So
yeah,
go ahead.
So we got first the average hourly earnings that month on month they went up by 0.3%, which is a little less than expected. So not great. But the other one that is interesting is the average weekly hours worked. That actually dropped from 34.8 to 34.7. It was expected 34.9. So that's not a good sign either. People not working as much. But the most important thing that came to my attention was the government payrolls. They didn't have a forecast for it. But if you click on it, it increased 188,000. And if you look here, if you look at this year, it hasn't gone up by more than 60 or 65,000. So I don't know what these government jobs are, but if you look at the last 6 months, four of them have been up by about 60,000, and now all of a sudden it increases by 180. So if you take like 120,000 from that, this headline number wasn't really that great. And I saw as well the unemployment rate actually ticked up to 5.9%. That's despite the fact that a lot of people are probably giving up looking for a job in the long term.
Now, one thing that stood out to me when I saw this is that just look at the activity and these of course we know the lockdown will shut everything down. And they're attempting to do their best to play that narrative of everything's recovering. And even so, we got this weekend right now. Biden is starting his America opening tour or some American something tour, another patriotic lingo or whatever. But just the fact that these government jobs, once again, like as you mentioned, like where are these jobs coming from? Like are these new agencies, new entities they're creating, or what? Like where are all these numbers coming from?
Because if you look at that just during the pandemic or after the pandemic, government jobs really shot up. Because they probably needed to do with the lockdowns, and then it came down, it normalized. But this bump here does that we've had in this latest number is kind of strange. You kind of wonder if they made that up to make the number look good.
Clearly,
I don't know.
And that's why I think a lot of this has to do with, as we always mention, can you actually trust the numbers you're getting given now? Because they're all slanted to make things look like there is a recovery. And so once again, what entities are they formulating to use these numbers here? Other than the fact, I know we got this month, we have the push to get more IRS agents because of the new tax credit that's going to start in 2 weeks now. Going to be a monthly payout. So all that stuff is coming. So these numbers, man, they're comical in nature, but yet they want us all to believe this right here on the screen, which is the fact that I had to be showing this on the screen here. It says S&P 500 NASDAQ hit record highs after a strong June jobs report. So as long as even going up, we're good.
Even if there were 188,000 government jobs created, governments they don't have any wealth. They have to extract your tax to pay for those jobs. So it's actually crowding out the private sector that actually creates wealth. And maybe with that, we could, I don't know if you want to look at Janet Yellen, what she was saying about global tax, that there's a race to the bottom because taxes have gone down. I mean, I think it's a great thing that taxes go down, but she thinks it's a bad thing.
Yeah. So here's a Twitter thread from Janet Yellen that was posted yesterday, basically celebrating the global corporate tax agreement between 130 nations. And of course, as I mentioned before in my rant, it's all basically an illusion. They're trying to lay the groundwork for the new global tax system. And so we're going to dive into that. But one of the things that stood out to me is that, as you mentioned, the race to the bottom. And she said she's basically hinting at the fact that due to the inconsistencies in nations being able to collaborate on an actual corporate taxation rate, this right here will basically it will bring us all together so that we can have one common tax agreement for the corporations, and no longer have to compete against each other in this race towards the bottom of trying to outbid each other on the taxation rates.
I mean, this is like price fixing.
Yeah,
I would say this is like a cartel.
Oops.
Because how can it be bad to have competition and lower taxes? Because
Right.
when you have lower taxes, you have less government, you have less control, and the private sector and individuals can, do things without the government on top of them. They can create more wealth, create more jobs. Of course, she's a Keynesian. She's got it all upside down. She thinks that only government can create infrastructure and roads. But if you look back to the 1800s, the U.S. government never got involved in building railroads or bridges, even though they did sell the government land to the railroad company so they could build the railroads. But Andrew Carnegie, he built one of the longest bridges across the Mississippi in the 1850s or 60s. I don't remember exactly when. And it was a big risk to his fortune. It wasn't the government that built that bridge. The Grand Central Station in New York was not built by the city of New York or the state of New York or the federal government. It was built by Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was, he was a robber baron, but he risked his fortune building that big railroad terminus in Manhattan. So nowadays we think that government is supposed to do everything, and that's the fallacy, I think. And the other thing, Mike, about this global tax, and something that you mentioned I hadn't thought about is, yes, they want to eventually probably tax us through a global tax. And this global corporate tax, they're saying, oh, this is going to help, the middle class. That's rubbish. It's just PR. Janet Yellen was paid millions of dollars by the big Wall Street firms. They're not going to hurt them with taxes. They've got the lawyers and the accountants to help them out. But
and so I want to go dive into that further, because the article from Financial Times that you sent over definitely plays into that. But before I move on, let me actually share with you, just because I love visual aids, but I want to highlight what I was talking about. Let me pull this back up here, about this race to the bottom. And what should concern us all the most is that not only are they talking about trying to avoid the race to the bottom when it comes to corporate taxation, but the true race to the bottom happens to be in the purchasing power of cryptocurrency, the purchasing power of our national currencies. And as of right now, that's the global race to the bottom. And I can prove that with the fact that as of now, as I always say, 19 administrations have all played their fair share and taking us towards the bottom, to where the Federal Reserve note, aka the world reserve currency, now is already, in my personal opinion, already sub-zero as far as what you can actually buy with one unit called a dollar. So they've already succeeded in the race to the bottom. Now it's just a matter of how do they finish off this fourth industrial revolution transition, which was what we're going to get into, in our next topic or two. But yeah, man, the global takeover is well underway, and it's sick and twisted. And I want to transition, if you like to, into the World Economic Forum Global Risk Assessment of 2021. And so let me pull this on the screen here, because this is the meat and the potatoes of the bulk of this chat. Because, if you have a chance, and I'd encourage you, I will put this in the description below so you guys can read through it. Because to me, when I read through the summary, it's so evil, sick, and twisted that this is literally the playbook. And this is not like a conspiracy. This is not like just us having fun talking about this. This is what they actually are going to do if this all succeeds, which I think they are on course to do so. Mario, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just tell the viewers that later on they can pause this and copy that.
I'll put this in the description as well.
Put the link, not the link, but copy the address there.
Yeah.
Because if you go, someone sent me a link to that, but it was a World Economic Forum link, and I clicked on it, and they're not showing it anymore. You have to call them for this.
Yeah.
But if you copy the document exactly there, you'll be able to get into it. So I think this document has come out in the public, and they don't want people to see it. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I will. So this is a 96-page report, and just from having gone through the top and the bottom, which is the beginning and the end, everything in between explains and elaborates on what they want to do. But it has a lot to do with the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or Fourth Industrial Takeover, as I called it, and all the detailed intricacies of how they're going to pull this off. And as you thumb through it, it just gives you some of the key nuts and bolts of everything, and it gives you the outline of what's going on. And the executive summary gives you a nice analysis of what it is, about 3 pages long. I encourage everybody to take a read at it, and then go down to the very bottom where it says the descriptions of the Global Risk 2021, and then you get an idea as to what that looks like. And the stuff in there is so evil and it's so twisted, and it's positioned as possibilities for the future in a 10-year time frame. But yet, to me, my thought process is that if the mind can't conceive it, it's already been completed. And so we're going to thumb through this real quickly, put out some things worth talking about. So, Mario, feel free to chime in on what you feel.
One thing I would say, people might ask, they call you, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. How can the World Economic Forum, know what's going to happen? Well, it's because the World Economic Forum is like a private group. They meet every year at least once in Davos, and they've got the top business people in the world meeting. They've got the top politicians, the top media people, the top academics, all meeting every year, at least once a year. And they're all telling each other, this is what we're going to do. And the thing is, it's very easy to make everyone do it. If you've got the biggest corporations, the biggest universities, the biggest newspapers, the biggest mainstream media channels, all in doing the same, they're going to force everyone else below them to do it. So they're at the top of the pyramid in terms of how can I say, think tank ideas. And so it is a conspiracy, but it's not a theory. They're doing it. Even President Trump was there twice, I think, in Davos. So everyone's on board.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like it's already been written out, like this, it's their playbook, literally how they plan on using last year's event. Because the assessment of this report, and I just highlighted something I want to, let me pull this back on the screen here where I go. I'm everywhere right now. I want to read to you quickly something that I think is worth mentioning, because this is a risk analysis based upon a lot of PhDs and the collaboration of a lot of those partners we touched on in the last episode when we went through the World Economic Forum strategies and partners. All those people, all those think tanks that have been formulated, they put together this 96-page report. And let me pull it up here on the screen here. So this little snippet here gives you 3 or 4 tidbits of what they're talking about. And it says in the 5 to 10 year horizon, environmental risks such as biodiversity loss, natural resource crises, and climate action failure dominate, alongside weapons of mass destruction, adverse effects of technology. What could that be? The collapse of states or multilateral institutions. So this is the 5 to 10 year horizon. And so this summary is just a snippet. And then the bulk of the body of this report goes into how that's going to play out. But those are like just 5 areas that this report talks about. And then it talks about the adverse effects of technology. So Mario, I'm curious, what comes to mind when you hear the word what comes to mind when you hear the word adverse effects of technology? What's
cyber hacks? Cyber hacks?
You think cyber hacks? I think the true nature of the jab the technology and the jabs. That's the first thing came to my mind. So we can, anybody could be right. I don't know. I didn't read the bulk of it, but it's just the fact
that could be effects. That as well. Yeah, side effects. Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful, of course, talking about that.
Yeah. So
but I agree with you. But the other thing, from reading like the beginning of this report, the executive summary, and the charts and the graphs, the idea that I get is that they're really pushing this climate crisis. And I think that's another excuse to have global governance, they call, instead of global government. And why? Well, because if you have a problem that affects a problem that affects everyone, like climate crisis, extreme climate, as they call it now, then you'd have to have an international institution coordinate things, because their excuse would be that it doesn't. Individual nations going at it alone will not help solve the problem. So.
And to piggyback on some more of what you just mentioned, let me share with you here the underlying framework for what they're trying to accomplish. It says growing digital device and technology adoption pose concerns. It says COVID-19 has accelerated the fourth industrial revolution, expanding the digitization of human interaction, e-commerce, online education, and remote work. So here with that accelerated the fourth industrial revolution, like whose idea was it for a fourth industrial revolution? Like, did we vote on that?
The World Economic Forum, wasn't Klaus Schwab wrote a book a few years before the pandemic, didn't he?
So whose idea is it to have another industrial revolution? I'm fine. I will be fine with the industrial, but yet I know technology is here and they're going to use it to their advantage. And then I want to, let me see. I wish I could bookmark things here, but it's impossible to do that. But one of the things they are concerned with is a nuclear crisis. And so they talked about the whole health issue that was introduced to us. They talked about some of the other geopolitical risk, but then they emphasized also in the summary the concern of a nuclear event. And I'm thinking like, huh? And of course, cyber attack was also mentioned in there. And this is all within a 10-year time frame. So I took this as these are possibilities within some.
I guess I would say it's probably the West versus the East there, U.S. versus China and Russia. I can only think of that. And it's interesting that if you scroll down a bit more, they've got the probability of a debt crisis as well. Also
inside the summary.
The thing about this is I don't see them asking anyone from like the Austrian School of Economics to chime in. People who are. They've got the kind of people like Janet Yellen, the academics that think that government has to do everything. They always talk about, like, as you see there, public-private partnership. That means melding government and private sector, which is basically, that word that starts with an F that was popular in the 30s, fascism. I don't think they can censor that. That's what it is.
So for those that are tuning in, what we're going through is the 2021 Global Risk Assessment Report, based upon all the things they've learned from 2020 and all the think tanks paid for World Economic Forum partnerships have put together a report, 96-page long. And I would encourage people to thumb through it because it is literally their playbook as to what and how they're going to use last year's event to roll out the fourth industrial revolution and everything it entails. And at the very end, which we're going to get to once we start ranting on this stuff, is the actual, I would say the top 10 concerns that they're most worried about, which I believe is part of the strategy for the future anyway, which is already completed. But what I'll just read this a little bit, it says a response to the COVID-19 offers 4 governance opportunities to strengthen the overall resilience of countries and businesses and the international framework. 1, formulating analytical frameworks that take a holistic and systems-based view of risk impacts, investing in high-profile risk champions, I'm not sure what that means, to encourage national leadership and international cooperation, world governance, improving risk communications and combating misinformation, combating misinformation.
Well, that's us, I guess.
Yeah, so that's basically anybody alternative media that don't want to participate and goes against this, okay? And exploring new forms of public-private partnership on risk preparedness. So yeah, and so you want to scroll down to the bottom and just chime in on.
Just actually not all the way back. Like there's some charts here. If you go back up.
Go back up. Go back up. Go back up. Go back up. We got that chart there.
The probability, the bar charts that they have after the executive summary.
Okay.
No, but further up.
Further up. Okay, let me bar chart. Okay, right here.
These here, that one, yeah.
Okay.
So this is really interesting to look at because this says clear and present dangers, short-term risks. So it's from now to the next 2 years. So they think the biggest dangers are infectious diseases, livelihood crises, whatever that means.
So watch this. Let me share my thoughts on what that means. Homeless people, the unemployed, and all the poverty is being pushed here big time. We got to alleviate poverty. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's funny that they always talk about inequality and poverty, but they never mention once the central banks, how since 1971 they've been creating credit out of thin air and inflating the system. So so we've got extreme weather events, cybersecurity failure. But then if you scroll down, and the 3 to 5 years, it's interesting that they expect some kind of asset bubble burst. So why would you have that? Well, because the central banks are inflating everything, even though they never blame the central banks. It seems to, these asset bubbles, they seem to come out of nowhere, right? Yeah. And then price instability, which I think we're already having. So, and commodity shocks, debt crises. So I think people need to wake up. They're telling us what's going to happen, and it will happen. And 3 to 5 years is not a long time.
Yeah, not at all. And that's the thing. Like, there's a 10-year time frame to execute this Build Back Better plan, and so everything is laid out here. And here's another thing that trips me out about asset bubble burst. All the central bankers right now would never use words like that. They would say that there's extreme price concerns or extreme price things we're keeping inflation on is transitory. There's nothing out there that's major. They'll never say the bubble, an asset bubble. But these are the people who putting together this game plan here. They know that there's asset bubbles because that's part of that system. So, oh man. So
the scary thing is this weapons of mass destruction. I mean, 62.7% probability in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty yeah, I mean, I think if you look at this report, it's like a scaremongering report. It's trying to say that there's so many things wrong in the world, and that we have to trust these people to make everything better. Yeah, I think there's a note saying that like a ship doesn't sink because the water doesn't come in, right? It's a vessel. But if you make a hole in the ship, the water comes in and the ship starts sinking. So I think for us, for the general public, yes, we're telling you about this, but we're not trying to scare you, but we're just trying to show you what could happen so you could prepare. But I would also say that we have to be like a boat or a vessel, not to let these things affect us and scare us. Yeah. Even though, weapons of mass destruction is a bit concerning.
Yeah, and that's where, and so we're going to get deeper into this because at the report I'm referring to at the bottom, they talk about how there's a possibility of much smaller micro nukes that can be set off in certain places to accomplish certain things. And so just seeing that lets me know that I wonder if that's already something they have in plan. Wow. Yeah, like literally they're small. It can strategically place them in certain places to achieve whatever their goals without killing everybody ultimately.
And so delivered by drones or something.
Right. So if you
have you seen this? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So just that thought triggered something in my mind is like, being able to deliver it by drones. We saw companies out here doing drone work now, delivering food, Amazon got a drone program starting up over here. And so I'm thinking like, why would you need to deliver pocket-sized nukes to certain areas unless those are probably some compounds with people who have chosen to remove themselves from the system, or they'll be labeled as domestic extremists, domestic terrorists, or, that type of, far left field talk. But I'm sorry, go ahead. What you were saying?
Yeah, have you seen there's a bug like that synthetic bug they created, which acts like a an injection machine, so it's flying around and it looks normal like a bug, and it comes and bites you, and it's actually a way to inject things into people. They even have that. Google it.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty scary, that, I would say.
Okay, so watch this. So as you said that, what came to my mind was this. Let me see if I can find this, and I'll Google that as well. But let me see here. Let me grab this article right here. Okay, so here's something that came to my mind that might be able to play into that. But it says, dark moment in the history
Oh
of
yeah, GMO
mosquitoes released in Florida. So I'm thinking, like, outside of us being told that that's good for whatever it's good for, billions of GMO mosquitoes over a 2-year period is about to be maximizing profits for a biotech giant, Oxitec, not about the pressing need to address mosquito-borne diseases. So what exactly are they trying to maintain, contain, or achieve by releasing billions? Just throw it out there. Let me know your thoughts in the chat or something like that. But once again, like, if they're genetically modified to accomplish an objective, how they can easily be modified in programming to also achieve a different objective. And then this goes into the mRNA stuff. Mario, I must admit, I've spent more time looking into that and researching that than anything else, and my concerns about that. But yet these type of genetic modification stuff plays very well into being able to transfer from one person to the next, people who have not participated. You see what I'm saying? You see I'm going with that, right?
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna dial back.
But let's see if I can find this. Artificial insects, basically. They're called millibots.
Do me a favor, put that in the chat, and I'll pull it up. Or if you
I'll put it up. Yeah, so let's say if people refuse to, want to take the participate, they could. They know where they are because they can track you, and then they can fly these artificial insects, and you don't even know it's artificial, and it bites you, and you think, oh, that bee stung me, but it wasn't really a real bee. It was something created by a company owned by Bill Gates or someone else.
But look at this, man. Millibots. Look how small this thing is. It's like it's a mosquito. I mean, you would think it's a mosquito. You just slap your arm like, ouch, man.
Yeah.
Wow, this is twisted, Mario. This is real. This is not like misinformation, conspiracy. This is what they've built. This is technology being used for, I would call it evil. Some might call it for technological advancement.
Yeah. The thing is, technology is like a good thing, but it can be used for bad things as well.
Right.
And the thing that makes me suspicious about the people in the World Economic Forum, because it's not just Klaus Schwab, it's all the big corporations, the bankers, the central banks, the politicians, the media, all the top corporations. They've been at this for 50 years. The old World Economic Forum started in the early 70s. And they've driven the policy of the last 50 years that they're saying is failed.
Yeah.
And now they're telling us that they're the ones that are going to fix it. I mean, it's like someone coming into your house and robbing you, burgling, stealing all your stuff, and then coming back and said, oh, we're going to investigate who did this to your house. So but the thing is, people, the general public, they just see the World Economic Forum. They think it's a great thing. They're big on Facebook. They've got loads of followers, but they don't scratch the surface and look at the fact that they've been behind a lot of the problems that we've had for the last 50 years. And here they are trying to tell us what to do to solve those problems.
Right. And not only are they trying to tell us what to do, how to solve, they've created them, as you mentioned, and then they come out with it's the problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialect, which is in full play here. And I want to put something on the screen here, which once again is another just like outright admission to their conspiracy against humanity or their attack against humanity. Here is the Economist cover for the world in 2021. And just look at some of the things on this slot machine here. We have injection needles, we have masks, we got a question mark. I'm not sure what's under that question mark, but that's the question. You know, we got Biden, we got a broken American flag, TikTok, we got a nuclear bomb, and then dollar signs, and then we have solar energy, solar power, China flag, we got wildfires, a flag, trees burning, we got Zoom, and we got another COVID sale. So this is they outright with it. Like, this is what 2021 is all about. And Mario, what's most alarming, what's most notable about this is that this nuclear bomb at the top hasn't come about yet. You know what I'm saying? So we got 5 months left in this year. And
and the other thing as well, the Chinese flag is whole, and the American flag is cracked in the middle, which to me symbolizes the breakup of the United States. And I guess we're seeing that now already. You know, some states are doing completely different things than other states. While China is unified, I guess.
Oh, man. So of course we're seeing the states, and so that's another issue here. So speaking of states, just yesterday we have the Michigan shot to win, and it's about participating. So there's $5 million set aside for everybody to participate and show proof by going to michiganshot.com and signing up and registering, and you can claim your share of the prize money in the sweepstakes to getting back to normalcy. They're trying to accomplish 70% of people to participate, and they're offering college scholarships to the youth. The chances to win college scholarships is cash payments daily up until the end of the summer. So, I was talking to my wife about this and how
is that a lottery, or if you take the thing?
If you participate. I'm sorry. If you participate.
If you participate.
Then if you participate, then you are entered to win. And so that's their ploy for the 4th of July. So this week, this entire 7-day period from yesterday till next week is like you can win the most prizes. So they're pumping this everywhere. And it's like, so now every state, democratically led in particular, are really pushing their sweepstakes and lotteries. And I'm thinking, like, at what point had they ever needed to incentivize people to protect their own livelihoods by offering them a cash,
their own health.
Correct. And by gambling, you know, literally. So they're gambling. You're gambling with your life, is what it boils down to.
It shows as well that there's not much uptake to participate. So they're desperate, trying to bribe people, because this is a bribe, really, isn't it?
Right. And so it plays into the numbers that we're given as well. So apparently here in Michigan, 61% of the populace have at least participated with one portion of it. And I'm thinking, like, well, you know, we're beyond the halfway point. We should have reached herd immunity. We should be able to, you know, most people probably have it already. They have the antibodies. They should be good. And then all the reports coming out, antibodies are not good enough. You know, you still might want to, even if you mix the Pfizer and Moderna together with 1-1, you might have better coverage. I'm thinking, like, huh? So,
I saw a headline here. Someone tweeted that they'd heard that there's going to be a story coming out that the GPs, you know, the doctors here in the UK, have received a total of £400 million to get people to participate. So that's outrageous, because our health system, our GPs, are supposed to be, not a private thing, right? So because it's national health, socialized medicine. But the government, apparently, I haven't seen the article yet, paid £400 million inducements to all the GPs here to push people to participate. And is it any wonder that I keep getting texts, 2 or 3 texts a week, pushing me to participate from my local GP?
Yeah. I've gotten a couple of emails as well from some local health providers here, saying that, you've been able to be bumped in front of the line, given the fact that you're in the midst of this, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not, okay.
Whoopee.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. So I want to keep it moving. So for those tuning in, we've touched on a little bit of the playbook. And so let me go back to the screen so people can get a chance. And of course, I encourage you to click the link, and we're going to put it beneath this video. But here is the 10-year basically global risk horizon of things that they are planning to, things that are already in play, but things that they're that's going to impact us the most, and it has to do with everything from economic, environmental, geopolitical, societal, as well as technological. So you name it, it's a part of there. It's infectious disease, livelihood, asset bubble bursting. They got weapons of mass destruction. So this is a part of the playbook. And then if I go down to the very bottom, I want to jump on page. Let me see here. Page 85. So this 84. So this page here, the postscript for the foresight on frontier risk. And giving ideas, talking about COVID-19 has demonstrated the rapid and cascading impacts of a global catastrophic risk manifested pandemic. And it goes on, talks about the goals to better enable preparation rather than paralysis, as well as resilience in face of crisis. So here are some of the things that they are concerned about. And the first one is accidental war. How do you have an accidental war? Okay. And it talks about interstate skirmish escalates to war as governments fail to control action in the absence of accurate information. So this plays into that misinformation side of things. And then it got anarchic uprising. So young activists fed up with corruption, inequality, and suffering mobilize against entities, ideally the government.
No, it says against elites, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, against elites. Okay, forgive me.
And it's funny, they're admitting that people are fed up, but I don't think it's only young activists that are fed up. I mean, I'm fed up and I'm 56.
Yeah. And then if the asset bubble bursting, which is one of the top things in an economic side of things they're concerned about, happens, imagine all the retirement portfolios, investment portfolios that burst along with that. The valuations go down to whatever, they will go down to. There's going to be a lot of the baby boomer generation is also mad. They will be a part of this anarchic uprising. But it says AI-powered social media is exploited to spread disinformation, fomenting social chaos. And this says, here's something, brain-machine interface exploited. Companies, governments, or individuals utilize burgeoning mind-reading technology to extract data from individuals for commercial or repressive purposes. Okay.
Well, that how can I say, coincides with what you sent me about the U.S. Congress or Senate. They want to pass this legislation, like lawful encryption of data, the LED Act.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say, under anarchic uprising, they say spreading disinformation. No, they're spreading the truth. Yeah. It's the World Economic Forum and the mainstream media, I would argue, that spread misinformation these days.
Or they spread their version of what they want to execute, and anything that contradicts that is labeled as misinformation.
Yeah, it's just a different opinion we have. Yeah,
right.
My opinion to solving the problems of the world, of course, I know there's always going to be problems, is basically we need to go back to a sound money, honest money system.
Yeah,
and then from there, I think things would be a lot better, because with sound money, government is going to get smaller. People are going to have more power, but they don't want that, of course.
Yeah. So I appreciate the super chats. We'll get back to those and definitely answer those in a moment. I want to thumb through this list a little bit. And then the brain machine interface exploited is something that concerns me, because that plays into the participation and what's inside of that technology we know nothing about.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Also assume that they can figure out some way with this nanobot. We talked about the microbots that can sting you out of nowhere and inject into you. All that stuff, it's a part of a greater agenda, and it's going to exploit people for sure. Then it says the collapse of established democracy is one thing they're concerned about. Democracy turns authoritarian through the progressive hollowing out of the body of law. And of course, they're attacking here the Second Amendment, First Amendment, every right we have here. They're definitely putting pressure on all those. It says illegal.
Well, can I add another thing here as well? The people are losing more and more faith in the system here in the UK, because we're still having to follow all these rules here about putting something on your face and social distancing, and parents can't go watch their kids' sports day. They have to stay outside the school, look through the fence. And then you have, the elites going to Wimbledon and watching tennis, all sitting next to each other, not
Yeah.
wearing something here. And then you get people coming for the G7 here, having a barbecue, hugging each other, everyone together.
Yeah.
And the other day, Boris Johnson announced that executives of corporations that employ more than 500 people, they'll be able to come here and not have to isolate like we have to do if we go abroad and come back. So I think they want this to happen. They're pushing it. And this is just part of this. I'm sure the politicians in the federal government in the US and the government here in the UK, they've got this thing that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And literally, I think they do the World Economic Forum forecast, and they're saying, oh, how can we do this? How can we push this? I mean, the other day we had a skirmish in the Black Sea with between the Royal Navy and the Russian Navy.
Yes.
Accidental war.
Right. If you want to believe that. So once again, for those tuning in, we're going over the global risk assessments, about 10 or so things that they, meaning the orchestrators of this whole experience, in collaboration with the think tanks and government bodies and all those entities to put together this report, basically, which is the playbook of things that I believe we can expect, because it's laid out too well. It's laid out in an orderly fashion. They gave us their 10-year risk analysis on certain events, and nuclear war was one of them. Asset bubbles bursting was another one. Infectious disease rampant up is another one. Because that lets me know that there's going to be different variations and variants to come, and if possibly worse events that will be related to health, which will cause them to want to push a different style of participation with that stuff that goes into your body.
I think they're giving us the script for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Hands down. Okay, so collapse of establishment. We got geomagnetic disruption. They're going to mess with the Earth. They're messing with the Earth, and this is the weather stuff. And this is the climate change push. How do you push the climate change narrative other than messing with, as it says here, the rapid reversal of the Earth geomagnetic poles generate destabilizing consequences for the biosphere and human activity. So they're playing around with the Earth crust, in a sense, causing issues with our planet is what will help them as well, because that plays into their climate change initiative. Look at this, the heat wave right now, as well as that cold front that came through Texas a couple months ago. Stuff like that is just not coincidental, in my opinion, Mario. I don't know about maybe might be you. But...
Well, I mean, there are a lot of ways that they can modify the weather modification. That's not a conspiracy theory.
Right.
That's real. The other thing, when they test nuclear weapons, it can cause earthquakes.
Yeah.
So who knows what the technology they have to do things like that.
Very true. And so I've talked about several types of things. Here's a little article. I just first thought come to mind, I go grab something relevant to it. But weather modification. So here's some program settings, all types of ways that it's a lot of information out there if you guys are interested in finding out about weather modification. Because once again, once we're finding out what they are concerned with, to me that lets me know that they have already developed the technology to put it in the gameplay. They're not just going to tell us what they're concerned about in anticipation of it not happening already. So
I don't even think they're concerned about it. They're concerned. They're not. The only concern they have is that this might not happen. Yeah, I think that's what they want. Yeah.
Right. And the only way, and this is the thing, we share this information to let us know what they have planned. And this is where a lot of stuff, the importance of spiritual awareness and awakening, as well as hopefully trying to stir up the pot a little bit to get people fired up to confront corporations, because it's the corporations that's backing all this World Economic Forum stuff.
Yeah.
So we need to push back and somehow voice our opinions and stop spending your current remaining purchasing power with these companies to let us know, so we can let them know that we know what they're doing, in hopes of them having a way to adjust this, prolong this, or end this altogether will be the hopes of this. But we'll see what we can do with it.
I think the public's starting to wake up, albeit not a vast majority, because we had protests in London here last week, and you could see people with placards with signs about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. So a lot of people are aware of this.
Yeah. And those type of things, I shared a video that somebody shared on alternative media, but none of that stuff gets reported on mainstream. It's restricted to more fear about variants, as well as, you know, so-called good news on this new global corporate tax is going to make it more fair and everybody globally. But yeah, we didn't even dive into that in too deep, did we? I don't think we did. But a couple more here that we can keep moving. And so the most concerning is the gene editing for a human enhancement. This is one of the things that they're concerned about, which lets me know that it's probably underway, and that plays into those microbots and those GMO mosquitoes we talked about, you know, injecting mysterious stuff into our body. But it says governments began classified genetic engineering programs. A class of people is born with genetic capabilities better suited for space, the Arctic, or deep sea survival, setting off a genetic arms race between geopolitical rivals with undetermined ethical consequences.
Wow, that's like science fiction, isn't it?
Oh man, that's straight out of a horror movie. You know,
yeah,
man. This is what they're concerned about, which lets me know that it's already been worked out.
I don't even think they're. Yeah, like I said, I don't think they're. concerned about it.
I gotta correct that. This is their risk. This is their risk assessment of what they are pretending to be concerned about, that they got to solve. Of course, they already got the solution. The solution is in the bulk of the body of this report here. So these are just a little summary synopsis of what they have on play. But then the next one, permafrost melt releases ancient microorganisms. Like, you know, ancient microorganisms. A warming planet leads to microfrost melt in the Arctic. So just that sentence lets me know that. And I share videos about all the activity at the bottom of the planet that we don't know about, and how. So Mario, let me share something with you real quick. So you're in the UK, and you're familiar with that region. Me over here on this side of the planet, not too far away in a sense, we were taught that Iceland was ice and Greenland was green. And of course, it's the complete opposite. In a nutshell, Greenland is all ice. And I heard about the Norwegian, just how that came about. But here, because we don't get a true source of information, I always thought Iceland was a chunk of ice. So I never really wanted to go to Iceland, because who wants to go to Iceland? Opposite reverse. Went there, beautiful green. The Antarctic the South Pole, the South region, to us has always been it's off limits. There's no colonizations there. There's no people there. But I've shared videos where, according to the information I've dug into, the U.S. had ships going down there in the 1930s during the Great Depression. They were down there colonizing. They got bases. They got infrastructure.
Oh, yeah.
A good portion of the land down there is green as ever. It has freshwater ponds. It's a whole oasis. It's a tropical region down there.
It's weird. And have you heard of Admiral Byrd?
I think I have. It was probably part of the documentary I was watching.
He flew down there apparently in 1947, Admiral Byrd, and apparently they had a battle with the Nazis,
Germans,
Germans after the war. Because there is talk that the Germans had bases down there.
Yeah, so there's a great documentary.
And I think there's a video from the 50s. It's a Longines. Longines is the Swiss watch, is a documentary, and they've got Admiral Byrd on it, and he's talking about how much resources Antarctica has, probably gold, minerals, and also Iceland. Not Iceland, but Greenland. A couple of years ago, President Trump offered to buy Greenland, and the Danish said, we were not interested in selling, but Greenland apparently is full of rare earth minerals.
Yeah. So just more stuff we're not being told. And it's interesting that the more I dive into what's happening, down in that region and what's not being told, is interesting that there's a lot of stuff down there that I'm sure hopefully will come out one day. But just to see that they're talking about an ancient virus unknown in modern science is released into the air, soil, and the water systems. This is a risk. This is a risk that I guess the readers should be concerned about. And that's why they're bringing this to our attention.
Oh yeah, they love their viruses.
Yeah, they do. And so that plays into up here earlier talking about what was it, way up top when we were showing the charts as to how that was one of the leading things in the health department. If you release some type of ancient virus or something like that, of course it's going to be a concern. And then deployment of small scale nuclear weapons. New technology allows for proliferation of low yield warheads, blurring deterrence frameworks and leading to global nuclear war. So come on now, this is what they're considering.
Is that part of the Second Amendment? Will you be able to get one?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be for the people. That's for sure. By that time, they're going to want and hope that all guns have been removed from the public's hands. So that's just a little rundown to the chart, man. But it goes a lot deeper, Mario, and it's twisted. But this is the playbook, man. So let's take some questions. I'm sorry, we going back and forth. We live right now. So for those that are timing in, feel free to let us know what's on your mind. And I want to acknowledge those super chats here. Let me find them and bring them up because I think there were some questions, and we can go from there. But feel free to highlight in the chat; it'll stand out. We'll touch on it. And Mario, if you see anything that you want to touch on from the chat, feel free to do so as well. I'm trying to find super chat. Here go one here. It says Miles says, why do people say banks and policymakers do not know what they are doing? They ran the financial system over 100 years. They know. Lev Bullion at art auction on Discord tonight at 8 p.m. Get your weight up. Okay, so that's good. Miles. So one of the community members is an artist, and he's found ways to put rounds and coins and different real metals and minerals or whatnot into art forms, and it's quite beautiful. And so that was him mentioning that. But he has coins in the canvas with paint around it. It's quite crafty, but yet it's a part of the narrative. Like, it's the false narrative of these problems came out of nowhere. We don't know how they came about, but yet we got the answers for them. That's how they try to paint it to the average person. And of course, most people believe it because they don't. Yeah,
someone noted here, mask-free society, Mario going deep into Antarctica. The other thing I noticed, I think it was the day after the 26th presidential election. Guess where John Kerry, who was Secretary of the State at the time, guess where he was on that day? He was down in Antarctica.
Right.
You kind of wonder, what are you doing in Antarctica the day after the presidential elections? Just seems weird. The other thing that I've thought about is the Falklands War between the UK and Argentina back in 1982. Why would Britain? You can understand, the Argentines invaded that island. You go and you can understand that they would want to go and defend it, but it's a little island in the South Pacific. They say it's because it's got a lot of oil, but it's strategic as well because it's very near Antarctica, and if there is so much in Antarctica that we don't know, the British want to have a base in the South Atlantic, and that's that's the Falklands. I would say that was the reason for that war, because they wanted to defend their access not to oil but to Antarctica.
Yeah. And speaking of which, let me actually I'll put on the screen here the documentary that opened up my eyes. And I'll probably actually play a little bit of it. But here's a documentary here. Let me pull it on the screen here. So this here, it's called Invading Antarctica, Secret South Pole Colony. And it shows a lot of in-depth video footage, real video footage, black and white, of course, from the 40s, 50s. And there's a lot of reporting in the late 70s and 80s that was, of course, on radio at that time. But a lot of people were sharing information and a lot of reports that were locked up and sealed. But this video here,
James Forrestal, if you go back, James Forrestal, I think he was the first Secretary of
Treasury.
Defense.
Secretary of the Navy.
He died in suspicious circumstances. They put him in a mental hospital. So he was involved with Admiral Byrd as well, I think, about Antarctica.
Yeah. So this video talks about his suspicious and untimely death after he arrived back. But here's a video footage here, and this is supposedly this is the South Pole right here. And
wow.
when you see this,
My
like, you know, I'm
goodness.
thinking it's a big chunk of ice all the way through, but there are seasons down there, and it's so big of a mass of land that's been sectioned off in different countries, got their portion of it. You know, when also the video footage and the angle we're showing from satellites show a big white blob, but yet once again, what keeps
Google
them from
Map
covering up?
always Google Map makes it all white, doesn't it?
Right. What keeps them from covering up? So here's just more video footage of people down there in all the nations. And they actually got a lot of activity. They had a lot of activity down there. And of course, I can go left field, extremely conspiratorial, but I'm not going to. But you know, my UFO alien stuff, I think, has a lot to do with what's down there as well. But this video here, I would encourage people, just type in "Invading Antarctica" and it'll pop up. But you'll get a chance to see a lot of historical stuff that already occurred. And so since then, technology is so far advanced. What have they not been able to achieve? Having all that secrecy down there would be the question.
And I'm sure they don't allow commercial flights to fly over Antarctica, because you'd think, you know, if you're going from Argentina, let's say, to New Zealand, it would be just easy to fly over Antarctica, and you'd be, you know, in New Zealand. I mean, that's the way I'm thinking of the geography here. Instead of going around the Pacific, you just go over Antarctica to the other side. But I don't think they allow commercial flights to fly over Antarctica. Why not?
Right. But here's the thing. So in this video here, they talked about one of the airlines is out of business, you know, went bankrupt a long time ago, did flights on the regular. Pan American, yes. Pan American did several flights, of course, with government officials and U.S. officials, whatever. They were flying. This is in the 50s and 40s. They were flying, 50s, 60s, 40s, whatever, several decades. They've been flying in and out, sending ships there for decades now. And of course, now it's everything in this new day and age is silenced, other than, like you mentioned, it been reported that, you know, a lot of congressional people went down there after the election for whatever reason. But they were talking about how the Nazis were suspected of having the first base down there. And it shows they found, what was it said, New Schwabland, which was
that's a good channel there, Robert Sepper.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
So
the other thing as well, I think the UN closed off Antarctica in 1957. Yeah, that was the year. Man. It's interesting that 1957 was the year that the Russians sent out the first satellite.
Interesting.
Anyway. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so let's dive into the chat a little bit, and then we'll get ready to dial back. We're approaching our hour mark, but it's just this was just so much stuff to cover. We scratched the surface of it. It gave you something to go dig deeper in for yourself if you're interested. What else we got here? Let me see. Any thoughts or any chats? Anything you see, Mario? I'm trying to find that other super chat if I could.
Well, Bitcoin Phoenix says this channel is my new fave.
Oh man, I appreciate you, man. It's the collab, that's all. It's the collaboration, my friend.
I guess today we went off into some interesting subject here at the end, Antarctica. I think Cliff High of Half Past Human, he covers a lot about Antarctica. He thinks a lot's going to happen down there.
Yeah. And so once again, that's the woo-woo guy, you know, and that's why you have to be open and receptive to anything now, because it's no longer conspiratorial nature. Like we've been talking about this to the point where now it's been confirmed. They confirm it bit by bit. Passports to travel freely only if you participate. That was something that was mentioned about a long time ago. Like now it's here, and they're selling people with lotteries to participate in this experience. So, you know, you don't have to be considered crazy no more. So I feel vindicated. I feel like I could, you know, relax a little bit and speak even more freely, because everything's on the table now.
And there was a World Bank document that came out a week before they declared the event last year, the health event, the WHO. And the World Bank said that they were launching a COVID preparedness preparedness manual, or and the dates were, it was going to start then, end of March, or sometime in March, and it would last until March 2025. So it's the COVID preparedness program for the World Bank. So last year I was playing golf with a friend, and just before they locked down, and my friend said, "Oh, we're going to be back in the summer to play golf, and
Yeah.
everything's going." And I said, "I don't think so." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, this is going to go on for a long time." How? And he said, "How do you know?" Well, I've looked into it. and yeah, this is going to keep. They're going to find excuses to keep us under control, like with the the Greek ladder now that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, and this is the thing, like, well before 2020, I remember when this channel first started, I was talking about this upcoming decade. Somehow, some way, it was going to be impossible for there not to be some type of reset, because we were already talking about, and I know you were talking well before me, because you originally come from the financial sector. So I'm sure you recognize things were unsustainable a long time ago. And so we all knew at some point it was going to come to an end or to a transition, and it would be the tremors leading up to it. And then what would be the catalyst to get us over that hump? I never thought about it being a so-called health thing. I thought it was just be, like a war, global event type of situation. But the idea I never foresaw.
Well, we could still have that war, according to them.
Good point. So that's why I knew that this from 2020 to 2030 was going to be something like we probably would have never imagined. And to see that it's going to be in chunks and phases in accordance to what they say that they are considering risk lets us know that every year, every 6 months, every 5 months, there's going to be something new thrown at us, which furthers their interoperability of their CBDC push, as well as as it says here, the working of public and private entities and governments together. And it leads to that one world, one currency future that I knew about well before now. And, but anyway, man, Mario, you ready to get dialed back, my friend?
Yep.
All right. So let me say, I see a lot of thoughts, a lot of people concerned with a lot of situations in regards to the whole participation that will come from the private sector, because there's going to be a pushing for employers to make sure people participate. It says, hey, Mike and Mario, what's up with the IMF and the BIS? Dude boy, what do you mean? Be more specific, please. What's up with them? They are
talking about Basel III or something, maybe.
Yeah, I forgot. What do you? So give me your assessment on that. I didn't anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, Basel III was implemented to the Eurozone banks on the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
It was implemented to U.S. banks yesterday, and it will be implemented on the U.K. banks by January 1st.
Yeah.
There's always been a lot of questions about gold and Basel III.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people predicting a huge move in the gold price because of it. And I've always told people the reason to buy gold and silver is not because of Basel III, but because of the fundamentals, the fact that they're printing so much money, the fact that we're going to have a debt crisis collapse like the World Economic Forum is saying we're going to have.
Yeah.
So I've covered it because people have asked me about it, but I've always said, don't be surprised if nothing happens in terms of an immediate price rise on the June 29th or, now. So I think people need to be patient. IMF, BIS, they're working all together with the World Economic Forum. You look at the managing director of the IMF. She's a Bulgarian woman, Georgieva, I think her name. She's a member of the board of the World Economic Forum. Mark Carney, who was governor of the Bank of England, he used to be on financial stability board of the BIS. He's now at the World Economic Forum. He's pushing this climate finance as well. Yeah. So they're all working together. IMF, BIS, World Economic Forum, Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
I even saw today that the New York Fed is going to open. They're going to allow the BIS to open a U.S. office at their headquarters in New York. So they're all, the BIS is actually going to be in the States now.
Oh my goodness! So that's different, and that's the old establishment entities, BIS, World Bank, and the NATO, and all stuff like that. But then from the Eastern Hemisphere, we got AIIB. The BRICS are still operational. I ain't heard much about it. Then we got all the other, Russian and China entities forming, and all that Eastern Hemisphere story, which I always thought was going to be. Which I'm not. Here's a question. Now we'll get ready to dial back. Do you think that Belt and Road Initiative and the new announced Build Back Better World Initiative is the globalist way to counter the B and R and I, or is that all an illusion? And they're creating that East versus West type of square off, knowing all along that they wanted to go towards China because that's untapped, basically. What do you think?
I think they might use that as a, division. The BBB is what the West is doing, and the Belt Road Initiative is what they're doing, and that could lead to this, accidental nuclear event. I would say.
Yeah.
So someone noted that Build Back Better in lowercase. BBB is like 666.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that a couple of times, man. All right, man. So let's get ready to dial back, Mario. Once as always, man, it's great to connect. We had a double portion day because of last week having some conflict scheduling wise, but we did it. We got it done. We laid out some framework, and the document that we referred to today in this whole live stream, I want to make sure it's included underneath this video on both sides. I'm sure Mario posted as well, so you guys can read it for yourself. This is just us. We're sharing with you what they told us. What do you do with it? Now, let's end off a little bit with some good news, Mario, because we, everything might have seemed doom and gloom, but there's also good news to this. If you don't mind sharing what comes to mind first for you, and then we'll wrap up with some good news.
Good news.
Yeah. What you got? You got anything good? Or you want to lead off? Want me to lead off?
Wow, you lead off.
Okay, I'll lead off. So
I can't think of any good news.
and so once again, I've always mentioned that we have a natural experience. It's what we do practical to try to adjust and prepare and do everything I can. But ultimately, everything boils down to the spiritual essence of things. And whether you're a believer or not, wherever you are on the faith parameters, ultimately, we're all going to need help from a higher source, because as of right now, the governments are positioning themselves as the end and be all for us. And I don't believe that's to be the case, because I believe in a higher power. And so that's why I really encourage people to take time to invest in and deposit into your spiritual account. And in particular, for me, I more so follow the the Christian faith. And so I find comfort in me diving deeper into improving my spiritual awakening and account. Yeah. So that's my good news that I like to share with the people, because I can get bogged down by all this world, because it can be very depressing, Mario.
It is. It can be depressing, and I've been a bit, not depressed, but it concerns me, But the good news is that, we know what's going on, and like you talked about the Christian faith, I'm a Christian too, even though I don't publicize it. But I think the good news is that we can still come out here and tell people what's going on, hopefully, and the other thing is, for me at least, is that my family is all healthy right now, and together. I think that's really important, to have the family unit, and also building a community like we're building, even though it's virtual.
Right.
I have so many people that I know now from my channel that I've met a few of them, but if we didn't have these traveling restrictions, I'd be meeting a lot more people. So and be prepared as well. I think that's I guess that's not good news, but I would say.
I think it is, though. I think it is good news, because we've been conditioned to be a just-in-time, right now type of society, where you go to the grocery store on every Friday or whatever. Why not have some reserves? Like, why not have a sound money and then have food storage, have energy, just for the sake of not being solely dependent upon their delivery systems to us. So it's just a whole nother way of thinking, because I grew up in a city, so all I know is city life. I don't know how to cook and kill for myself, but at some point I might have to. So I need to brush up on my skills, Mario, big time.
No. So I guess the other thing is we can't give in to evil. We just have to keep coming out with the truth. Yeah. And it might sound a bit repetitive, but it has to be done, or else they'll win.
The question is, are people going to fight, or will the people just roll over? And that's where. It's a way to resist, to the point where if more people unite and sharing their opinions and being willing, like also Mario, being willing to share their faith, we can reunite a lot faster and stronger, I think, just to resist by not participating in a lot of things.
Yeah, and getting out of their system as well.
Right. Get out there.
Getting out. keep stacking.
Right, and be leery where you put the remaining
Of your
tidbit
energy,
of your purchasing power. Like, stop supporting entities, such as another. I'm ranting. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna have to hit end because I can rant. But I saw that Aldi in the UK is going to require entrance into their grocery store. You got to have your passport. You got to have your health passport. And I'm thinking, like, I like Aldi here, so I know Aldi in the UK is already ahead of the game. It's gonna come here. So I'm gonna have to not shop at Aldi and tell people, hey, you might want to consider that, because Aldi, they already experiment in the UK. They're gonna bring it here. Don't give them your paper.
Well, we shop there and they haven't asked us anything.
Yeah, I read an article saying that they're one of the companies that are talking about they're going to roll it out or whatever. So it's just a concern, man. But anyway, all right, let's
we'll go to Lidl then instead.
Yeah,
Lidl. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, we went over our normal time because we had so much to share. Hopefully, you guys grab some nuggets from it. Definitely visit Manico64. He does great work every single day. If you're new to Rethinking a Dollar, just Google Rethinking a Dollar. I'm everywhere. I try to be everywhere, at least, while I still can be. And other than that, it's been great to hang out, Mario. Have a blessed weekend. Hang on for a second. And everybody, enjoy your weekend. Peace.